was a kid, the snowstorms were bigger, and we generally had snow that we could count on. Like down in the valley in Hanover, the snow consistency is a lot thicker, wetter, and often doesn't last as long, whereas in Stratford we're about 1,000 feet higher in elevation, and we have colder snow that's drier, and our snow usually stays longer. But again, we see a lot more rain in the middle of winter than we ever used to. In the past 2 years, we've been getting the wider temperature swings where it's a lot colder. So when it's really cold out, we see more powder snow, there's less moisture, and then the temperature swings the other way where we get a lot warmer, and then the moisture collects in the snow, so then we get a lot more heavy snow, which between the two temperature swings we end up with a lot of ice.
New England and this area in particular, where I have the most experience with Nordic skiing, has always had some fickle, difficult weather to provide Nordic skiing in. So some winters have been really good, and some winters have been like this winter with little snow, lots of rain, and warm temperatures. However, I think this is just my anecdotal experience that more often we get warmer weather and more often we get more rain. There's definitely more ice, and there's more temperature fluctuations from cold to warm. It seems like in the early 90s you could get a cold spell and it would last most of the winter. Now it's pretty typical, I feel, for it to go up, down, just wild fluctuations more often.
Here at Suicide 6, the season is relatively short. We usually open mid-December and close mid-March. Generally in Vermont, the ski season is slightly earlier than that, and depending on the resort and their snowmaking capabilities, will be a little bit longer, well into April. But it's certainly, the natural snow has certainly shortened the season if you don't have the ability to make snow. Yes, we've seen a major freeze-thaw, more aggressive freeze-thaw, I think recently than we have in the past, and you've probably experienced that too. And more extremes, so extreme warm and then followed by extreme cold. Not the steady kind of traditional winter temperatures that we're used to, and that definitely affects skiing conditions.
The hardest part about grooming is when we have inclemental weather where, you have really warm temperatures during the day and really cold at night. The snow sets up really hard, and in order to keep it consistent, it takes a lot more work to soften it up and make it consistent. And rain makes it really difficult because obviously rain will erode snow. So we try to avoid being on the snowpack when it's raining, because the more we work the snow up, the water gets into it and melts away quicker. So yes, that's definitely had a big impact. In general, in the industry, we have stepped up the amount of snowmaking we have to deepen our bases and give us more consistency through bad weather. And so, yes, we have gone through some pretty drastic changes with snow guns.
Well, I think in generally our ski seasons are about 120 days. They vary based on the winter and the amount of snow and that sort of thing. When I started in the ski industry a long time ago, we had many more significant snowstorms. They might start around Columbus Day in October and then roll right through until April. Now we see the snowstorms starting much later in the year, perhaps after Thanksgiving. And that's probably the biggest change I've seen, is the snowstorms are coming later, they're less frequent, and we also have more warm weather events throughout the winter, which makes us much more reliable on making snow ourselves.
This weekend, the bad conditions were the blowing snow yesterday, and the snow was piling so high it was hard to keep everything uncovered.
Well, it's hit or miss. So you'll get days like today where it's beautiful out, and then you'll get days like yesterday where you get a foot of snow and you got to shovel, and sometimes there's water, sometimes there's big cracks and heaves.
I've only been ice fishing about 6-7 years now, but I have noticed a lot of variation in that. Some seasons are really short. Like this year, we had a pretty late start to the season because it was so warm for so long, and then it locked up, and then the ice is starting to go now. So there was really only 2.5 good months of ice this year. It makes it a lot more dangerous. If you can't trust the ice that you're standing on, you don't feel safe going out on the ice. I have definitely had some times where I was having a great ice season, and then it got really warm a lot faster, a lot earlier than I expected. Things are getting warmer, and with warmer conditions, you're going to see less ice, less safe ice, shorter ice seasons, and unless something can happen on a global scale, this isn't going to change for hundreds of years.
From winter is we're not getting as prolonged cold periods. It used to be that we would get well below freezing temperatures for long periods of time. Sometimes we would go a week or multiple weeks where temperatures would get down into the -10, -20 degree range. And now we might only see a few days over the whole course of the winter where we see those sorts of temperatures.
As someone who studies climate, I'm very aware of how variable climate is and how we can have mean conditions, but we can also have extremes and we can have variability. And so it's really difficult to come up with a feeling for how things have changed over time. I think, though, in general, without a lot of data to base my assumptions, I think it certainly has gotten warmer during the winter. The winter season has gotten shorter, so it's not as prolonged a time as it was, and there's probably been less snow. So these changes have really impacted the quality of cross-country skiing, and we all have a picture of cross-country skiing as being out in beautiful powdery snow and snow on the trees and so on. But the reality is that we go from those kind of conditions frequently, we still have them luckily, to conditions where it's raining or we've got ice on the snow, and so it's degraded the quality, I'd have to say. I mean, I suppose you could take a positive view and say that it's made it a little bit warmer, so it's not quite as cold for people when they're out skiing, but with modern clothing and moving around, that's not such an issue. So I think it's degraded the quality, and if you're looking at introducing people to the sport and bringing them up as a lifetime activity, which it is, that has an impact. If you lose 10% because they don't like skiing in the rain, or they don't like the ice, it makes it too fast or too difficult, then that hurts the sport. It hurts the industry.
We need to address the reasons why the temperature is rising and try to halt that forward progress. If we can cut back on some fossil fuels, reduce some of our plastic usages, and basically be driving less, that would be one of the main things, we would see some benefits from it.
I think there are a lot of things that we can do and a lot of organizations that are really dedicated to making some change. I think it's got to be a very holistic global approach to making those changes, because obviously this isn't a problem that's just exclusive to Vermont or exclusive to any specific ski area. So I think it's going to be a massive effort, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration, and everyone's going to have to be on the same page in order to really impact and make a change.
I'm hopeful that the same enthusiasm will stand behind going to electric snowcats, so that we can groom without having much of a consumption of carbon dioxide and burning a lot of diesel. More localized skiing like we've got here in Hanover, so that people don't have to drive to have good skiing, and that's got lots of positive benefits as well. It builds community, and you see people that when you're out skiing, and that's a good thing, and for humanity as well. Yeah, the Nordic industry we'll endure by making snow. I think that's almost essential. And the other approach would be to store snow over the summer, something that has been experimental at Craftsbury. They've been doing it in Europe and Scandinavia, but if you make snow during the coldest time of the year, it requires less energy. Cover it with sawdust and protect it, and then peel all that sawdust off in the fall and spread that snow around. That'll serve to extend the season back to where it should be beginning. And then by making snow during the coldest days, they can extend it into a little bit longer.
I think in the long term that there are ways that we can solve this, but it's not going to, there is no short-term solution. There's no short-term fix. It really hinges around the entire earth, global industry, global trade and commerce, development, consumerism, countries like Brazil continuing to, cut the rainforest down. All of this contributes to the change that we're seeing as, called climate change or global warming. It's happening around the earth, and one country or one state alone cannot make the changes necessary to reverse these trends. So it takes everybody working together.